Today, we'll be discussing 10 very interesting facts about the women of the Beatles. Let's begin. Pattie Boyd, George Harrison's first wife, introduced the Beatles to transcendental meditation in 1967. Pattie was interested in exploring spirituality and had seen advertisements for meditation classes in newspapers. She told George about the classes, and he told the rest of the band, which eventually led them to attend one of the Maharishi's lectures. What followed was their trip to Rishikesh and a deep fascination with Eastern religion and spirituality. This influenced their music for the rest of their time together as a band, as well as solo careers. They used Indian instruments and sounds and wrote lyrics relating to Eastern philosophy. Given that the Beatles' interest in Eastern philosophy and spiritual concepts helped spark a change in consciousness and impacted the youth of the 1960s, we definitely have Pattie to thank because it is so hard to imagine what the late Beatles period would be like without the influence of Eastern culture. Yoko Ono, John's second wife and the most controversial of the Beatles' wives, shares songwriting credits with John on his song Imagine, perhaps one of the most famous songs of all time. Yoko actually helped write the lyrics and came up with much of the song's content. When speaking about Yoko's contribution to the song in a 1980 interview, John says, "In those days I was a bit more selfish, a bit more macho, and I sort of omitted to mention her contribution." However, in 2017, the credit was changed to Lennon Ono by the National Music Publishers Association in the US. Linda Eastman, Paul's first wife, was a photographer, and this was how she met the Beatles. She photographed B.B. King, The Doors, The Grateful Dead, The Who, The Byrds, Jimi Hendrix, and eventually the Beatles. In 1968, with her photograph of Eric Clapton, she became the first woman to ever have a photograph featured on the front cover of the Rolling Stone magazine. Linda and Paul were also featured together on the cover of the Rolling Stone in 1974, making her the only person to have a photograph of herself and taken by herself on the cover of the magazine. Cynthia Lennon, John's first wife, had to hide the fact that she was married to John during the early Beatles period. The band's manager, Brian Epstein, thought that John being married would make the band less popular. Since their fan base at the time John and Cynthia got married was predominantly young teen girls who were in love with the Beatles for not just their music. Cynthia says, "I was asked many times if I was John's wife, and I had to refuse and say, no, I'm somebody else." Jane Asher and Paul dated from 1963 to 1968, and she heavily influenced Paul's songwriting. Songs such as We Can Work It Out, All My Loving, and I Love Her, Here, There, and Everywhere, and You Won't See Me are all said to have been written about Jane and the couple's turbulent relationship. Paul also moved in with Jane and her family in London and got music lessons from Jane's mom, Margaret. She taught him how to play the recorder, a flute-like woodwind instrument, which he used in his song The Fool on the Hill. Maureen was Ringo's first wife, but when they first started dating, Maureen received death threats and was even attacked by Beatles fans. She started as a fan herself and was a regular at the Cavern Club, and the two started dating when Ringo asked her to dance one night. But Maureen had to hide that they were dating out of fear of jealous fans. When people found out about the relationship, she was subjected to attacks, and on one occasion, a fan scratched her face while she was waiting outside a venue where the Beatles were performing. Maureen has provided very interesting accounts of the Beatles in their very early days and how crazy their fans were for them. She says the following about the Beatles fans at the Cavern Club. "The object was to get as near the front row as possible so that they could see the Beatles and be seen. I never joined the queue till about 2 or 3 hours before the cavern opened. It frightened me. There would be fights and rows among the girls. When the doors opened, the first one would tear in, knocking each other over." Nancy Chevelle is Paul McCartney's current wife, and she credits her cousin, Barbara Walters, the famous broadcast journalist, for introducing the two in 2007. It has been rumored that Walters saw a possible match between the two and made sure both were in attendance when she threw parties. Nancy is a very private person, and Walters says the following about her cousin. "She doesn't want anything to do with publicity. She turned down a piece in Vogue. She doesn't want anything to do with music." With Paul constantly being at the center of the public eye, Nancy's desires for privacy is probably one of the reasons the pair work so well together. Barbara Bach is Ringo Starr's current wife. The two met in 1980 on the set of the film Caveman. However, Barbara had actually seen Ringo before when the Beatles performed their famous concert at Shea Stadium in 1965. What Beatles fans might not know is that Barbara is one of the many Bond girls, a famous role and character in Bond films. In 1977, she played Anya Amasova in The Spy Who Loved Me, the 10th film in the James Bond series. Olivia Harrison, George's second wife, saved George from being killed by an intruder in 1999. The two were attacked in their home, Friar Park, by a man who broke in and attacked George with a kitchen knife, puncturing his lung and causing head injuries. Olivia stepped in and incapacitated the attacker by striking him with a fireplace poker and a lamp. Olivia also says George helped save her too, even after being stabbed, as the man began attacking her as well. Not everyone knows about Mei Pang, but her and John entered into an 18-month relationship after John and Yoko split in 1973. She had worked for John and Yoko as a personal assistant and production coordinator. Lennon referred to this time with Mei as his lost weekend, and he got back together with Yoko in 1974. Mei wrote 2 books about her time with John, the first called John Lennon, The Lost Weekend, and a book of photographs called Instamatic Karma. This book contains some very historically significant photographs, such as John Lennon signing the dissolution of the Beatles partnership and the last known photograph of Lennon and Paul McCartney together. Cynthia also provided a back cover endorsement, acknowledging Mei's role in reuniting Lennon with her first son, Julian. Well, that's all for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.